Say, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? I am your host, Lacey G. Souldier Turner, and today I have a very special guest with me. He is the president of the St. Louis NAACP chapter and just been doing a lot of great things in the community. We have the wonderful, amazing, talented Adolphus Pruitt. Welcome to the platform.
Man, how you doing?
How are you doing today, sir?
Actually, it's a good day. I can't really complain. I've woke up this morning and everything is working. So
Yeah, that's always a great thing.
everything's working.
He said everything working, so that's good.
Everything is working. Yeah,
So look,
everything is.
so my first question for if people not familiar with you, can you let the people know where were you born and raised, and how was your upbringing as a child?
Now, I was born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri. I got it was nine of us, five girls and four boys, and unfortunately, older brother and older sister. We lost both of them this year, but the seven of us still left, and my mom and dad they're gone. So, but hey, brought up in North St. Louis and in a place, wonderful place in Midtown St. Louis called Lacey Town. At the time was a very interesting experiment in in what we would call diversifying community. So we had a neighborhood with black, white, um, Orientals, you
Everybody.
name it. It was one of them. It was a melting pot, and that, believe it or not, at one point in time we had a pro basketball team here, the ABA, the Spirits of St. Louis. Even the basketball players was the pro players, and some of the pro Cardinals were staying down there in the neighborhood. So it was a nice little mixing melting pot
Okay.
down there in the Clee town. So I had a good late childhood.
Look, we need another NBA team back and another football team. We got
Well, don't get me
come back,
started. Don't get me. Don't get me
come back, yeah.
take
Y'all gonna
take
win
your
the Super
pick.
Bowl league.
Hey,
Take your pick.
take your pick. I take either one.
That part facts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let me ask you this: for people who want to come to St. Louis and haven't been here, we get a bad rep. They call us the number one murder capital and all this. But people who've never been to St. Louis, what can you tell them about St. Louis in case they want to come but are scared to come?
You know what I would tell them? I've been all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
and I never forget this. I travel some places and I be with people, and then I tell them what parts of their town I've been in. They be like, "Man, what you doing there?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "What?" I'm like, "They black people, ain't they?" I'm like, what's the difference between North St. Louis and North Philly, or the black part of Baltimore, the black part of L.A., Watson? Let's be clear. Um, I wasn't raised with a silver spoon in my mouth. I
Mm-hmm.
was raised around by low income and middle income black folk who had to
Yes.
do what they had to do to survive and raise a family, and
Mm-hmm.
we hung out in those neighborhoods and the neighborhood bars and lounges. So when I go someplace, I go and visit the town, and it's like, listen, the only way they know I ain't from there is I tell them. I, you can't, I don't know no neighborhood you can walk into and look at somebody, you're in a black neighborhood, you look at somebody black and say, "Oh, that black guy's from Baltimore, or that black is from is
No,
from
he like
Philly, or that black
like he's
guy's
from
from."
Kentucky.
Yeah, no, no. They may say he ain't from this neighborhood, but they can't
Mhm.
look at you and tell, what city you're from necessarily. And so I like to be around my people, and I tell people, you come to St. Louis, listen, treat St. Louis just like you treat the neighborhoods you would in the city you
Right.
live in. If there's some neighborhoods in your city you don't feel comfortable in, well, we got something in St. Louis you may not feel comfortable in.
There you go.
But if you got some neighborhoods in your city that you feel comfortable in, we got some in St. Louis you can feel comfortable
Come
in.
on.
So come on.
That's right. Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Facts. Hey, look, he just dropped some jewels. So everybody is the same. You got neighborhoods that you don't feel comfortable, and you got neighborhoods you feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
who lives in a city that they got some neighborhoods they won't go to?
Hold on, let me say this. Look, Adolphus, look, you see how old he is. You see how old I am. We still alive.
Yeah,
So
hey,
come on.
hey, you know, let's. I'm glad you mentioned about the thing about the murders, because the folk, black, white, blue, or brown. I want you to hear this. In most cases, 90% of murders were committed by somebody who knew the person they were murdering. There were some issues between the two of them. Now, don't get me wrong, we still have those where people run into each other on the street and have some beef,
Yeah.
and things break out. But hell, it was like the Wild Wild West now across the country. Everybody can carry a gun,
Facts,
except in
yes.
New York. Except in New York,
Except in New York.
except in New York, they don't listen. You don't carry a gun in New York. but
Oh yeah, they laws are strict.
yeah, and a few
Look,
other places.
I remember one of they football players, Plaxico Burris. He shot himself, and he got 2 years in jail.
Yeah,
He
I'm
shoot his
saying,
own self.
you need to know the laws where yet. You
Yeah.
do what but what I'm saying is that so when you hear about these murder rates and stuff, a lot of it has to do with selling the person that's committing the murder and the victim, the person who was killed, know each other or have some sort of beef. There was something that caused that. So while I don't want to see the murder rates high anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need, especially black folks, white folks, but especially black, we need to quit killing each other like that.
Right.
But I don't think folk need to believe that when they hear murder rates like that, for some reason in St. Louis or in Baltimore and DC or Philly, people just run around shooting Negroes. No, it's not going down like that. It's just not going down like that.
Right. Hey, listen, hey, you just dropped a lot of knowledge for that question. You done dropped a lot of knowledge more than others, like common sense. Like a lot of these people know each other. So if you come here, ain't nobody just gonna be like, look at him, pow, pow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's not. No, that's not happening. I mean,
Yes,
murder ain't free.
Facts. So let me ask you this. What made you get into social activism? Because I know you've been doing a lot for the community.
About 12 years ago, a friend of mine, fraternity brother, was president of the city NAACP and asked me to join. And I told him NAACP is irrelevant. I'm doing business, and I walked away. And he said, as I was walking away, he said, well, the reason why we're not as effective as we can be, because we can't get people like you to join and contribute. And, I walked away and I got to my car and I said, you know what? He makes a point. I turned around and went back and joined. And I've been in it ever since. It is opportunity to make some change, give some help and assistance, and do it not looking for something necessarily in return for yourself, but making things a little bit better for folks who may come behind you. I tell people all the time, one of our strongest suits here in the city of St. Louis is that we have a reputation that if you call us, we return every call, 100%, 100 or 1,000. We return every call. And we would do that because we want to hear what folks have to say on the other end, because we believe that individual advocacy is more important than anything right now, because people have issues. My child may be being discriminated against at school. My landlord is treating me wrong, discriminating against me. My job, and or the police are beating the hell out of me, and they shouldn't be. People have individual problems, and they need somebody they need to have somewhere they can turn to where they feel that somebody is fighting for them individually, for their individual problem. And so what we try our best is to make sure that that individual advocacy is strong and stays in place. And then if you call and we can help, we can help. And more than anything, you know, I tell you one thing that's more interesting. More than anything, the help they're looking for is some advice and somebody to talk to them and whisper in their ear and let them know I hear you. I understand what your issue is. Here's some things I think you can do to deal with it. Here's some things I think we can do to help. Here's some areas where I don't think we can help. But in the meantime, we hear you. Let's get into the fight.
Hey, that's real. I like that. I love that answer too. And even like what you said when you first joined, it was just like it's like if it's people like you that's not gonna do that, then we never gonna, you know, because a lot of people be, oh, ain't no change gonna come and nothing's gonna happen like this. That's because we're not standing as a united front. So,
And you
even
know
like,
what? I tell you real quick. No, it's almost like sports. If the all stars are sitting on the bench, how you plan on winning the game?
there you go.
You got the second team and the third team out there, and your starters are sitting on the bench playing against starters.
And I look, and I see like I watched a lot of, I love watching, you know, the civil rights movement, the videos back in the days and all that. And it seemed like, you know, during the time of Martin Luther King and everyone, it seemed like it was more of a united front. Everyone was together, you know, and it seems like we're more divided, you know, these days.
That's true. And what happened was this. See, I think if you, and this is just my opinion. History, there may be some historians that said, "Oh, he's wrong." But back then, you maybe had one or two real organizations that were fighting for the civil rights and the freedom for Black people. You had the NAACP, you had the Black Muslims, and you had Martin Luther King and you know the groups associated with Southern Christian Leadership Conference, things like that. And so you either were going to be part of one or the other. You know, then the Panthers came along, you had an option there, but there was very few options for folk to decide that they were going to participate in. Of course, the Urban League eventually came along. And so as society became a little bit more open, and as people began to elevate themselves with income and became a little bit more society, a little bit more, how should I say it, mixed in with the regular society, for lack of a better term, then folks now have all these options. So you got the LGBTQ option, you got the Hispanic option. If your thing is just to get rid of cancer, you can join that group. If your
Black
thing is
Lives
just
Matter.
yeah, like your thing is I just want to help homeless, you can join the home, because now you have a different group for every little different thing that's out here.
Yeah.
And so people now have all these choices to make, and they make one. And I think that's why we're not as united as we are. We're divided, but we're not divided as relates to our ability or our desire to want to make change happen. We just divided as relates to we have all we can. It's called bifurcated. Things have become so bifurcated that you can choose the one thing that you want to be involved in, and there's an organization out there that's concentrating solely on that. And so you dedicate your time to that, and then everything else, you know, it gets sit by the wayside, and that's sort of what's happening now. That's how I see it.
I like that. Yeah, that's a real answer. Can you tell me about your experience as, you know, the president of the NAACP St. Louis chapter?
You know, I have had the opportunity to get involved on some very serious policy issues, especially as relates to diversity and equity when it comes to public spending, the spending of government dollars on contracts and stuff like that. We've been able to make some great strides in that, both at the local level and state government. And same thing with corporate spending and things like that. So I enjoy those experiences. We have been able to help deal with dealing with inequitable policing. You know, we've made some strides in that. We've been able to get some things done. We have a couple of mediation agreements with the police department locally here. And I'll give you a good example.
Okay.
The one day a police officer was patrolling in the housing authority projects and stopped a kid and pulled out his phone and took a picture of the kid and shot it out to all these other police officers saying, hey, do you know what gang this guy's affiliated with? You see this shirt? Kid would never been arrested, wasn't affiliated with any gang.
That's crazy.
So we found out about it, got the Justice Department involved. And then what happened is the police wind up entering into a mediation agreement with us and changing their policy where now police officer can not use his personal phone like that on the job. And if he does, that phone now becomes evidence and it goes in the thing, because the danger was them shooting it out to all these police. Now all of a sudden, all these police officers got this kid picture in his phone.
Exactly.
And they can go somebody and say, well, hey, you think this guy's the one who did it? And people make mistaken identities all the time.
Yeah.
And if not but for this guy putting this guy's picture in the phone for some bull crap, you get what I'm talking about? And that would happen. So, you know, we've been able to make strides in dealing with issues like that. What I would say more than anything is that my experience on dealing with elected officials and trying to get them on the same page as relates to a lot of the policy changes and things we have, in some cases has been tremendous. And we worked with the late Councilwoman Hazel Irby out in St. Louis County and introduced legislation, and it was the first time in their 100-year history that they had a policy on the books to ensure that African Americans had a fair chance at getting county contracts. And so it's things like that that I enjoy. But we've also had our losses too. You know, there's some things that we have not been able to change and deal with, and we're still working at it. But you know, I don't want to make it sound all rosy. We have some great victories, but we have some losses too. We take some L's.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that also. Let me ask you this. You have a great radio show that's been going on for a while called Point Black. Can you tell the people about that?
Yeah, Point Black. Me and the Reverend Darrell Gray, who's a longtime activist. He was a member of SCLC when he was down in Atlanta. So he and I co-host a show where we what we try to do is we try to do a deep dive into one subject. So, you know, we have some talk shows where, you know, they talk about this, talk about that, all of that in one show. What we said was, no, today's subject is going to be this. And we concentrate and do a deep dive into that subject matter. And we try to bring as much facts to the table. And then he and I will offer our opinions. And, you know, you don't have to agree or disagree. But at minimum, we will argue with you about the facts. When we put the facts out there, you know, we would say, nah, you ain't going to dispute the facts. One show we did, I never forget. We did a show because we had found out that the population, let me put it this way, the most educated segment of the U.S. population, now hear what I'm saying, the most educated segment of the U.S. population are African-American women. African-American women have more education, have a more education attainment than any other segment, than white men in the U.S., than white women in the U.S., than Oriental women in the U.S., the Oriental men in the Hispanic.
I gotta go listen to that show. I gotta go listen to that show.
They're the most, you know, and so we said, now that's a fact. Then we started talking about the fact that they're doing so good, but they ain't gonna marry now. They ain't gonna. So we had a good debate about that. We had a good. So that's what I mean. We put the fact out there, and then we will have a good debate and conversation about the fact. And we think when people listen to the show and finish, we just finished up the one that talked about this stuff in Israel and this and that, and Reverend Gray, because he's a pastor. So I said, well, Reverend Gray, they said God promised them this land. And he broke. I said, so. I said, so, and he broke it down. He said, well, yeah, I'm not going to dispute the word of God. I'm a pastor. I believe in the word. But he broke it down, and he basically said that, hey, here's the deal, here's that. And so it turned out to be a very good conversation. He had been to Palestine before. He'd been over there 12 times. He's been to Israel. So he was able to bring some facts to the table, and he also gave his opinion. But again, I think is you don't have to agree with any of our opinions. Mm-hmm. But when you leave the show, you're gonna leave with some facts.
Mm. Hey, look, let me ask you this. Okay, so you say y'all go deep into like y'all have one topic, right? And y'all just go deep into it, right?
Deep into it.
So has any of your audience members like ever got mad or like, this is not right, y'all telling guys?
But we haven't the response we've gotten so far is good. We in most cases the response has been, well, we wish you had brought this up or brought that up, and sometimes high and high we say, oh, you know what, you're right, that might have been a good piece to add into there. No, we did one show where we talked about the fact that Black women who are single, who won't have a child, or may not be single, but won't have a child, who using artificial insemination when they're getting it from a sperm bank, that there's so little Black sperm in there that now they're choosing other nationalities. And we had a young lady on there that had 2 children that way and talked about her experience, and then we talked about why they don't have a lot of Black sperm in the sperm banks because of how they screen and how Black men are screened out, and so that's what I'm saying. And so we learned it. And here's the other thing about it: we learned as much as the audience, because the subject come up, we had to go do our research ahead of time. And we be like, wow, I didn't know this. Wow. So when we get on the show, we talk like we know it. But believe me, audience, we had to go research. We had to go do our homework first.
Yeah. So how do y'all go about choosing the topics for the show?
Now, I plead guilty. So if you hear the show and you didn't like the topic, blame me. I pick the topics.
Okay.
And I do the initial research. Then all the research I do, I share it with Daryl. Then he looks at it and reviews it. So now he and I both are talking about the same. We got the same set of facts.
Okay.
So that when we have our discussion, even we agree or disagree, remember he and I agreed on the facts. And so what happens is that I read everything, I look at everything. I'm just a sponge for. I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, you on and on and on. And you pull up your iPhone in the news feed, then I look at shows. I love 60 Minutes. I love the Discovery Channel. I look at HGTV. I'm a sponge. And some come up and I say, and what normally would happen is say, oh, I didn't know that. oh, that's interesting. And if it's something I don't know or something I think that piques my curiosity, that's the thing I start doing a deep dive into. And then the more facts I can get on it, I say, hey, Daryl, here's what we're going to do. Now, this week's show, a good example, about a month ago, Daryl and I went out to the FBI locally to their range and got into the simulator where you put the things on and you simulate an officer involved shooting where we're the officers. And so this show is going to talk about that experience we went through and how when we were the officer and we the ones doing the shooting and how we made that decision and how that decision fits in with policy and how it doesn't fit in with policy. And I mean, I learned man, I learned so much from going through that. I've learned, and don't get me wrong, our opinion about all involved shootings are the same, but going through that experience and then applying the policy to that experience where you were in policy or you were out of policy and this and that, it really gives us the tools we need as activists so that when those things happen again, when we look at them now, we're able to look at them from a lens of knowledge that we did not have before. And it proves to be vital because I give you a good example. One simulation we were definitely going to talk about was that here's a good guy was supposed to be a bank robber, black guy in the bank, violent guy with a gun, gets out, get away. They discover he's at a house. Okay. They surround the house. The guy runs out with his gun, not pointing it, but with his gun down. And he's running towards a tree. In a simulation, one of the guys with us in simulation shot him. He's running away, he shot him. So they start playing it back. And they said, well, what you think? I said, man, he can't do that.
He didn't pose a threat. He was just running to the tree. He was just running to the tree.
I said, posing a threat. He's running away and his gun is down. And they said, the policy is this. Now, here's what I'm getting at. The policy is that because he's a violent predator, been labeled that way, and he has a gun, if he's fleeing for cover, so he can get behind that tree and then turn around and shoot back, you have the right to shoot him before he can get covered.
Interesting.
Interesting. See what I mean? And I'm like, how in the hell? Wait a minute. Let me.
Interesting.
So you get what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by we tried to bring stuff to the forefront and conversations about stuff to the forefront where you say, oh, now I didn't know that. Now, because I'm like, there's no anywhere you'd have told me the policy is that if you think the guy is fleeing for cover so he can turn around and shoot, you can take him out before he gets if that had happened and they came out and said, well, the police officers was operating within policy, I'd have said use a damn lie. Ain't nowhere in the world you got no policy like that. But that is the policy. That is the policy.
Okay. Look, man, it sounds like it's a great, super great show. Where can the people tune in to listen to Point Black?
On iHeart Radio on 1600 Hallelujah on Thursday mornings at 8 o'clock. Okay. We're on, and then on on 9 o'clock we're on, and then on Sunday mornings we on the beat. We on the beat. Sunday morning, the hip hop station at 8 o'clock. So the same show you get on Thursday, you can pick it up on Sunday, and that's every week. And Point Black, and the first thing we tell them, we're black. We're black. So don't make no mistake about it. We're black.
Okay, Point Black, y'all heard that? Point Black, yeah. Make sure y'all tap in and listen to that radio show. I'm about to tap in. It sounds like we talk about some interesting things on there. So
yeah, we try to go there.
Let me ask you this. So you've been doing a lot on your journey. What would you say has been your greatest challenge?
Greatest challenge?
Mm-hmm.
The one we have been, I would say, not the least successful at, but the most frustrating issue that I have not been able to completely resolve, and it may not be our ability to do it, and that is discrimination and bullying in the public schools. You expect kids to have an opportunity in the best environment for learning, and when we don't produce that because of poor teachers or whatever that is, the people that's going to suffer is the kids, and that's a lifelong suffering. and kids should not go to school where they're called niggers and treated like monkeys or called monkeys, and in integrated schools, our inability to get that out of there has been a tough thing, a great challenge, and it's one we have not won. We've made some successes, but we haven't won the battle yet.
Yeah, that's ongoing battle. Let me ask you this, Mr. Pruitt. What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment there?
Um, a combination of making sure that government spending is equitable, and that minority contractors and women contractors and minority workers and women workers get a fair share of the pie. And we've been able to do that both at the state level and when it comes to Missouri Housing Development Commission, and at the local levels, both in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. And with the Metropolitan Sewer District, that community benefits agreement we got that puts contracts in the hand of Black folks and Black workers, that overall spend is like $4.2 billion. And we're getting our fair share of that on an ongoing basis. So I think those that bringing equity to the expenditure of public dollars, I think has been our greatest accomplishment.
Okay, that's nice. So, do you have anything coming up that you want to promote, or anything you got going on?
No, actually, this, we're winding down. If we do our Freedom Fund dinner in February, so it's not till February. We haven't locked in the date there. The one thing that I would sort of promote more than anything else is that simply is this: is that listen, if you have an opinion about something and you want to see some change, find a way to get involved to sort of make that change. Everybody, every little bit you can contribute helps, whether it's $1, whether it's an hour, whether it's a day or whatever. Because like we talked about earlier, there's groups out here taking on everything, and you can find one that is taking on a issue that you care about, and then more than anything is promote people like you, because listen, bloggers, at the end of the day, content and information is the most important commodity in the world.
Fact.
Being informed. And so supporting folks like you, like us, with the radio show and stuff like that, listen listen up. Fact. And take as much of it as you can.
Yeah, that's real. Hey, that's a real statement. How can the people get in contact with you?
The best way is to give us a call, 314-361-8600, 314-361-8600. We return 100% of our calls.
Okay, you heard that? Not 98%, not 98%.
It may not be right away, but you'll get a call back. So we get a lot of calls. But if you call and leave a message, and matter of fact, I'll go further than that. When you call and leave a message, the messages, the return calls from voicemail, I make all of those personally.
I see that. There you go. So look, not 98%, not 98.9. They return 100% of the call.
100%.
And if you want to talk to,
and we got a call. We got a computer. We log them in so we can tell you when you call, and we can tell you when we call back.
And look, and if you want to talk to Mr. Adolphus Pruitt, just leave a voicemail.
Yeah, if you voicemail,
he gonna personally.
You're gonna get me. You're gonna get me.
All right. So my last question that I love to ask all my guests: when it is all said and done, and you are long gone from this earth, what is it that you want the people to know about Adolphus Pruitt?
That he did not mind a good fight. He didn't run from it. If it's a challenge and he think he can make a change at it, he took it on. He didn't, he didn't care what was on the other side. Bring it on.
There you have it. Hey, I appreciate you, Mr. Pruitt. Hey, you dropped a lot of knowledge in this interview. I thank you very much, and I would definitely let you know when we drop this article and the interview.
Got it. Hey man, be good. Always a pleasure.
Hey, you too, and I'm definitely tapping into your show this week for sure.
Oh yeah, man. So you can see you can shoot somebody running away.
Hey, look, I ain't shooting nobody in no virtue. All right, thank you, Mr. Adolphus. I'll be in contact.
Take care, man.
All right, you too.